Do you need a record deal? How significant is a record deal? All right, hello everybody. So, no change of plans. What we were going to talk about was EQing, but I have not been able to get my DAW to cooperate. So, holding up to my promise to Jerry, I do want to, for a few minutes, pose the question: in this modern independent musician day, do you need a record deal? How significant is a record deal? As some of you may know, that I have, in 1990, I had a record deal. I was a recording artist, vocalist under the name of Robbie Michaels. And it was, for me, like a dream come true. I mean, who doesn't want a record deal, right? This was, again, like in 1990. So what I did enjoy and what I can say about that experience was I got to record in a top-notch studio out of Philadelphia, Sigma Sound. I got to meet some incredible people. I got to meet some people whose names I used to read on album covers, and just kind of build a friendship with a lot of great people. I got to travel pretty much half the country, if not a third of the country. Well, 2/3 of the country. I got to travel to London. I got to travel and sing in Germany. So the experience of performing and being a artist without having that expense was a dream come true. But to me, those days are kind of over with, and in a good way and in a bad way. Musicians, as you can see now, I've moved around my studio to my what I consider the upper room, to what is our finished attic. So I have a lot of space here, and I have in front of me, a table with my keyboard, my computer, speakers, interface, all that stuff. So I can pretty much record and produce, write, whatever, everything from this space right here. I don't need to go anywhere. I don't need to go to no big elaborate studio. Whether that's a good thing or bad thing, but that's not necessary at this stage. So you can pretty much be, for the most part, an independent bedroom recording artist and sell a lot of records, a lot of projects. You can release what I do love about being an independent artist is you can release music whenever you want to. One of the drawbacks of having a record deal is you may record something and they'll release it and they want a year to promote it and market it and go through all of that stuff. That's a good thing. I mean, if you're still performing and if you're traveling and doing all of those things in the meantime, but some of us who are passionate about being a musician and passionate about being a songwriter, that that motor doesn't stop. And so, you're always going to be writing and you're always going to be producing and recording and stuff like that. So you can't release stuff when you want to with the record deal. But like I said, the benefit of it is that in some way, the expense is not yours, the upfront money, the initial expense. You do have to pay that money back. Per your contract, they may spend $1 million on you in marketing and recording and the whole all-in package, but you have to pay that money back. And you only pay that money back through your record sales. If your record sales don't meet up, well, you don't get any money necessarily unless you're a writer or producer on the project. As an independent artist, you may not have $1 million budget, but you may have $1,000, and you can put $1,000 into building your website, do some like marketing, some short-term marketing, and that might generate, a couple $100 over time. So what I have found in my experience in being both is that there's give and take. I do love the independence of it. I do love recording a Christmas album when I want to, and then turning around and producing some political statement record or whatever, or turning around and next month releasing a smooth jazz project, instrumental project. So for someone like myself who is eclectic in my style, in my ear, I hear pretty much everything. You want to just, whenever you create it, you want to release it. So that's the one of the takeaways from being an independent artist. There are some interesting things, benefits, from being signed to a record company. You get to travel. When your record is selling in Memphis, Tennessee, the record company is going to ship you to Memphis, Tennessee to do promotions to kind of, get some more juice out of that. Go to radio stations. They don't do that as much back in the nowadays like they did in the 90s. That's kind of how I spend most of my time on the road, going to radio stations and just promoting and doing interviews and meeting people and going to record stores and hanging out with people and just kind of trying to build a rapport. But nowadays, I think that's being replaced to some degree with social media. Social media can become that thing where you get out and you're meeting people. You get out and you're interacting with people. Because as an independent artist, I think you want to use social media as sort of like a meet and greet session. Introduce yourself to people and get out there and show people, hey, this is me. This is what I'm doing. Take a listen. So those are just some of the give and takes of having a record deal versus being an independent artist. But that discussion is different for everybody. I will say that. And so, but at the very least, and I'll leave you with this, at the very least, whichever route you go, you as an artist have to have a plan. You have to have some kind of blueprint, regardless of what the record company says. The record company may want to make you a country western singer, and you are a R&B singer. They wanna sell records. But as an independent artist, you want to be creative. I think that's the main thing for independent artists, is that, being able to be creative. That's the takeaway. That's the back and forth. So hopefully that sparks some discussion. And hopefully over the next few days, I can figure out how I can get my DAW to work so that we can get more into production. So that being said, take care, peace out, create some new music.